The winds howled over Dark Vale Island as the elders and the younger residents kneeled in awe, their voices raised in reverence to Hanli, whom they hailed as their ancestral god. Yet, the more seasoned elders remained hesitant, their faces etched with doubt as they obeyed Luofeng's command to offer their respect. Amidst the turmoil, Hanli remained a stoic figure, his brow furrowed with confusion as he took in the sight of the struggling human tribe. The forces that besieged them were alien, led by a purple-robed figure. The situation was dire, and yet it seemed fate had drawn him into the fray despite his lack of concern. Above, Tuhar, the leader of the invaders, observed Hanli with calculating eyes. With the humans cornered, Tuhar had no intention of retreating. His icy resolve hardened, even as a mustached ally voiced doubts about Hanli's identity. But Tuhar, with an air of disdain, dismissed the concern and surged forward with a fearsome glacial attack. A towering projection of a blue python manifested behind him, sending out waves of frost that froze the very air. As Tuhar thrust his hands forward, two massive blue ice dragons took shape, their jaws snapping as they charged toward Hanli. But Hanli was unshaken, raising a hand to effortlessly dispel the attack, the waves of ice shattering into nothingness before the oncoming dragons were obliterated by invisible forces. The remaining cold crystal beings, those of the body integration stage, launched their own attacks, but these were no more than child's play to Hanli. His aura flared as his true extreme membrane shielded him, repelling the onslaught with ease. In an instant, the spears of ice and the relentless fist projections tore through his enemies, their bodies and nascent souls shattered under his unstoppable might. Tuhar, witnessing his force's swift demise, turned to flee, but Hanli's speed was unmatched. A single punch shattered his defenses, and in a flash, Tuhar's blue crystalline armor was cracked, his soul annihilated before he could even cry out. The battle was over before it began. Hanli surveyed the wreckage with an expression of indifference, as the remaining invaders were swiftly overwhelmed by the emboldened humans. Luofeng, overcome with joy, raised his voice in triumph, calling for his people to honor their ancestral god. The humans, now free from the brink of extinction, fell to their knees, their cries echoing through the plaza in adoration. Hanli, unmoved by their reverence, exchanged a quiet word with Luofeng, who immediately began organizing the survivors. As the islanders celebrated their victory, their eyes filled with wonder and awe, gazing at Hanli as though witnessing a deity in their midst. The great Luofeng bowed slightly and beckoned Hanli forward with a sweeping gesture. As they moved towards the ancestral god pavilion, the humans around them parted in reverence, their voices rising in unison, bidding the mysterious figure farewell. With not a glance backward, Hanli walked onward, his stride unfaltering, until the plaza faded behind them. The pair continued through a winding stone path deep within the forest, arriving at a modest yet aged hall, nestled amidst towering trees. Though it stood less than 200 feet tall, the hall was steeped in an ancient aura, its dark stone walls weathered but resilient. A plaque, engraved with Ancestral God Pavilion, in bold golden letters, hung above the entrance, and Luofeng ushered Hanli inside. The interior was dominated by a black stone statue resembling Dark Vale Island's ancestral god, its form unmistakably reminiscent of Hanli himself. Yet, Hanli's expression was firm as he addressed Luofeng directly. "I am no ancestral god. My arrival here was sheer coincidence." Luofeng's face paled, and he immediately fell to his knees, his voice trembling with desperation. "Esteemed ancestral god, if you had not appeared today, our island would surely have fallen. For generations, our tribe has worshipped you, and now we humbly beg for your protection." Hanli's voice grew colder as he responded, "I did not seek this conflict. If not for the attacks on me, I would not have intervened. As the chief, you know whether I am truly your ancestral god, and if you are attempting to deceive me into taking his place, it will not work." Luofeng's face darkened with a bitter smile, yet he persisted. "Regardless of who you truly are, senior, if you will stay and act as our ancestral god to protect us, we will dedicate all we have to serve you, providing the cultivation resources you require." Curiosity piqued, Hanli asked, "Tell me of this ancestral god you speak of." Luofeng hesitated, but then answered with reverence, The ancestral god is an ancestor who attained immortality hundreds of years ago, protecting our tribe ever since. It is thanks to him that we thrive on Dark Vale Island. Hanli pondered this before asking, "And what of the invaders today? Do they too have an ancestral god? What of the white light that surrounded them?" Indeed, they worship an ancestral god named Patriarch Han Chu, an earthly immortal who gained his immortality less than 200,000 years ago. His power is said to be weak, for he was once defeated by our ancestral god, Luo Feng replied, his voice tinged with bitterness. An earthly immortal? Han Li inquired, raising an eyebrow. Luo Feng was taken aback. You do not know of earthly immortals, senior? Could it be you only just ascended? Han Li remained silent, prompting Luo Feng to explain. An earthly immortal draws power from the faith of the worshippers within their domain. The greater the worshippers and the larger the domain, the faster their cultivation. Han Li absorbed the information before shifting topics. Tell me of the Cold Crystal race. Luo Feng spoke carefully. They are a tribe on the edge of the Black Wind Sea, often in conflict with us over resources. In the past, they dared not provoke us, but with our ancestral god in slumber, they have grown bolder. Han Li listened intently, his mind turning over the facts. And how far is the Black Wind Sea from the northern glacial immortal region? Luo Feng responded. The Black Wind Sea lies within the northern glacial immortal region's jurisdiction. Though it is a distant and inconsequential area, here is a map of the region. He handed Han Li a small bead, which Han Li took and infused with spiritual sense. Moments later, Han Li's eyes revealed a mix of emotion. I will protect Dark Vale Island, but there are conditions, Han Li said, his voice steady. Luo Feng eagerly listened. Please, senior, speak your terms. Han Li's gaze was cold but resolute. I only arrived in the Immortal Realm today. I was not ascended through an ascension platform. If you have a problem with that, we can part ways here and now. Luo Feng quickly assured, It is not a problem, senior. We are grateful for your presence. In that case, Han Li continued, refer to me as your ancestral god in public, but in private, call me Senior Lu. If the Cold Crystal race dares to attack again, I will intervene, but do not forget your promise of resources. Luo Feng bowed deeply. We will provide everything you require, senior. Very well, Han Li said, nodding. Prepare a place for me to rest. Luo Feng led Han Li through the pavilion's rear gardens, across a bamboo forest, and into a quiet courtyard, offering him solitude for his rest. Meanwhile, across the sea, far from Dark Vale Island, a cold and barren island stood against the waves. At its peak, a grand plaza stretched beneath a towering statue of a warlord-like figure. Around the statue knelt the cold crystal beings, their voices chanting as they invoked their ancestral god. A rumbling voice echoed from the statue, asking of their failure to capture Tuhar. The elder of the Cold Crystal race, sweat dripping from his brow, recounted the events of their defeat, pleading for vengeance. The voice from the statue remained silent for a moment before commanding, There is no need for further battle. If you provoke him again, more of your people will perish. Return to your duties. As the cold crystal beings departed, the voice murmured to itself, pondering the spoils of war and the precious secret it guarded, one that could secure its future ascension. In the courtyard, Han Li's hands moved with precision, sending azure light streaking through the air. Array flags materialized, twirling and vanishing to form a protective barrier around the entire space. With the last flag set, he sat cross-legged, his eyes closing in deep meditation. The stars above glimmered as night fell, and Han Li's gaze briefly lingered on the night sky before he took a pill from his hand and swallowed it. He inhaled deeply, his Big Dipper origin arts activated. 7 blue lights appeared on his body, absorbing the star power from the heavens. The starlight descended, healing his body, and by morning, all fatigue and damage from his journey had vanished. After stretching, he entered a side room, its simple furnishings maintaining a pristine, orderly appearance. Sitting on a futon, he revealed a yellow walnut from a jade box. The human-like patterns etched onto its surface radiated a fierce earth attribute spiritual energy. Han Li's spiritual sense probed the walnut, and he quickly discerned its immense age, at least 100,000 years, but this alone didn't explain the great value that had caused 2 demon beasts to fight over it. A deeper examination revealed chaotic yet patterned fluctuations within the walnut's spiritual chi. Hanli's thoughts raced. The energy seemed similar to the power of laws, but was not identical. As he pondered, he retrieved a wooden box containing the nascent soul of the one-eyed giant from the mysterious space. Holding the soul in his hand, black light poured from his fingers, attempting to probe the secrets buried within its mind. The nascent soul resisted fiercely, erupting in a burst of yellow light. Hanli's protective membrane activated just in time as the soul detonated, releasing a blinding light that briefly consumed him. When the light faded, Hanli emerged unscathed, his expression grim. The detonation had yielded little information, save for fragments of memory that hinted the giant consumed these walnuts every 10,000 years to enhance its cultivation. Stowing the walnut away for later, Hanli realized that more pressing matters awaited him. Stepping outside, he found Luo Feng waiting. With formalities exchanged, Luo Feng presented a black bracelet containing partial cultivation resources Hanli had requested. After a brief inspection, Hanli mentioned a need for a scripture library. Luo Feng eagerly led the way. The island was in the midst of rebuilding, and mortals, once in hiding, resumed their daily lives. Hanli took note of a ritual being performed before statues of the ancestral god of Darkvale Island. Luo Feng explained that during the recent battle, the mortals had hidden, but they were protected by the cultivators of the islands. Soon, they arrived at a small pavilion housing the scripture library. Luo Feng apologized for the limited collection, but assured Hanli it contained valuable texts. Hanli nodded, indicating he would browse alone. The scriptures were sparse, mostly focused on cultivation arts below the Grand Ascension stage. However, after hours of searching, Hanli uncovered several jade slips containing insights on earthly immortals. These immortals harnessed the power of faith, channeling it into earthly deity avatars that enhanced their laws. However, these avatars had limitations, particularly bound to the regions where faith was concentrated. If destroyed, the earthly immortal would suffer severe backlash. As Hanli closed the jade slip, he pondered the weight of this newfound knowledge. His search for more answers had only just begun. Hanli's gaze deepened as he reflected on the newfound knowledge. Though earthly immortals wielded the power of laws within their territories, the potential for mastery over such forces was too alluring to ignore. His experiences in the spirit realm had exposed him to the might of the laws, especially when he wielded the profound heavenly treasures like the spirit/sword. These treasures defied the natural order, a force far superior to mere cultivation or artifacts. Yet, mastering these laws was not a simple matter of gaining power. Luck played a pivotal role, and even with the right tools, success was never guaranteed. If becoming an earthly immortal could offer a pathway to the mastery of such forces, it was a path Hanli was willing to consider. Suddenly, he summoned Mo Guang, whose form emerged from the shadows. Mo Guang surveyed his surroundings with a neutral expression before addressing Hanli, noting the sparse qi in the area. "You've ascended to such a secluded place, fellow Taoist Han?" Hanli nodded. "This place is the Black Wind Sea, a remote region in the northern glacial immortal region." Mo Guang pondered for a moment, nodding in agreement. "A place as secluded as this could indeed prove beneficial. You can hide your identity here and avoid the detection of enemies for now." "That was also part of my reasoning," Hanli acknowledged with a smile. Mo Guang then inquired, "What is it you seek, fellow Taoist Han?" Hanli's voice turned serious. "What do you know of earthly immortals?" Mo Guang's expression grew thoughtful. "Earthly immortals are rare beings who manifest the power of laws by gathering the power of faith. Their cultivation is restricted to certain areas, and they are known to be scarce in the immortal realm." "Why are they so rare?" Hanli pressed, curious. "They rely on the power of faith to manifest laws, but their powers are tainted by this reliance. Their cultivation is slow, and they cannot wield their powers outside their designated territory," Mo Guang explained. "Many immortals avoid the path of an earthly immortal because of these limitations." Hanli absorbed this information, contemplating the implications. The Black Wind Sea was home to many earthly immortals, no doubt due to its geographical isolation. The region's constant storm acted as a barrier, keeping most outsiders at bay and making it a safe haven for cultivators. Moguang continued. Even layman immortals are hesitant to become earthly immortals. True immortals, who have mastered laws, are the rarest. Layman immortals, by contrast, focus solely on spiritual power and have no access to the laws of the world. Hanli's mind raced with new understanding. I see. Moguang then added, in truth, your path as a profound immortal makes you a form of layman immortal yourself, for you focus on cultivating your physical form rather than mastering laws. Hanli nodded slowly, taking it all in. After Moguang departed, Hanli turned his attention back to the scriptures, pondering the mysteries of immortal treasures. He reflected on the profound heavenly spirit/sword, which had once been in his possession. Such treasures were born from the essence of a realm, imbued with the power of laws, granting them immense power. The scriptures spoke of two types of immortal treasures. Essential immortal treasures, which were born from the essence of heaven and earth, and were exceedingly rare, and acquired immortal treasures, which were refined by immortals. Both types were potent, and the hierarchy of power depended on their inherent laws and the wielder's strength. Despite their rarity, immortal treasures were coveted by the highest-ranking immortals. The acquisition and refinement of such treasures was no easy feat, and even fewer immortals possessed the ability to create acquired immortal treasures. As Hanli pondered these concepts, Luo Feng appeared, responding to Hanli's summons. The two conversed briefly, and Hanli learned that the ancestral god of Darkvale Island had once sought immortal treasures but had failed. Furthermore, Hanli inquired about the type of law the ancestral god had mastered, learning it was the law of water, a common law in the Black Wind Sea. His curiosity piqued. Hanli then asked about an ancestral god statue on the island, which led to the revelation that it was not the true earthly deity avatar, but merely a statue used to gather faith. The real earthly deity avatar had been shattered in a battle long ago, leaving only its head. Intrigued, Hanli instructed Luo Feng to take him to the restricted zone where the shattered head lay. With no hesitation, Luo Feng agreed, and the two set off on their new path. The northern cliffs of Darkvale Island, towering over 1,000 feet above the sea, were sharp and jagged, their rocky surfaces battered by relentless waves that sent frothy spray flying into the air. The cliff's face was a canvas of erosion, pockmarked with countless holes, while patches of green moss and salt deposits clung to the stone. White crabs scuttled across the face, occasionally swept away by the surging water. Amid this tumult stood Hanli and Luo Feng, hovering above the waves, gazing at a seemingly ordinary hole in the cliff face. Luo Feng pointed at it, saying, "Here rests the remains of ancestral god Luo Meng's earthly deity avatar." The hole was of no particular size or shape, but Hanli's sharp senses detected something subtle. His spiritual sense was repelled, veering away as if guided by an invisible hand. A murmur escaped Hanli's lips as he activated his bright sight spirit eyes, peering deeper into the hole. He saw a faint, swirling vortex of water vapor, radiating weak law fluctuations. Luo Feng sighed. Ancestral god Luo Meng remains in slumber after 10,000 years, and the origin water seal weakens daily. In 1,000 years, it may no longer conceal this place. Without further delay, Luo Feng made a series of rapid hand seals, sending a burst of blue incantation seals toward the vortex. The air quivered, and the water vapor parted, revealing a passageway wide enough for a person to enter. "Please follow, Senior Liu," Luo Feng said, and with a swift motion, he entered the passage. Hanli followed. The path led them deep beneath the island, down a winding stone corridor illuminated by white, fluorescent stones. As they descended, the air thickened with water attribute spiritual power. After some time, they arrived at a massive stone door, which creaked open with Luo Feng's azure badge. Beyond lay a vast stone chamber, its uneven walls adorned with translucent blue stalactites. At the center of the chamber stood a black stone platform, carved with intricate channels, and atop it, the head of a statue. The face bore a striking resemblance to Hanli's own, though its eerie blue color and crystalline texture set it apart. The head emitted a steady stream of water attribute spiritual power, its lifelike visage frozen in time, yet the rough neck suggested it had been detached from its body. As Hanli studied it, an odd sensation stirred within him, a sense that the head was not lifeless, but rather breathing. He closed his eyes and released his spiritual sense, filling the room with his immense power. Luo Feng staggered, nearly overwhelmed by the force of Han Li's presence. Unperturbed, Han Li focused on the head, sensing a faint but vast energy flowing toward it. This energy, invisible to the naked eye, filled the chamber. Drawn into a tiny speck of light within the head, the rhythmic pulse of light mirrored the breathing of a cultivator in meditation. Power of faith, Han Li thought, withdrawing his spiritual sense. Behind him, Luo Feng trembled, soaked in cold sweat, though he dared not speak. Luo Feng then moved toward a hanging stalactite, tapping it to reveal a hidden stone platform, upon which rested a jade box. Inside the box, an ancient jade slip awaited. "This is the myriad water immortal arts, Senior Lu," Luo Feng offered. "It is the cultivation art of ancestral god Luo Meng, designed to convert magic power into immortal spiritual power." Han Li accepted the jade slip and skimmed its contents. Though the art could theoretically support his cultivation, its water attribute nature clashed with his current path, rendering it of little use. He returned the slip to Luo Feng, explaining, "This cultivation art does not suit me. Are there other immortal arts available?" Luo Feng thought for a moment. "In the Black Wind Sea, few immortal cultivation arts are available, most held by the ancestral gods. However, on Black Wind Island, there are auctions held every century where such arts may be found." Han Li's eyes gleamed with interest. "How long until the next auction?" he inquired. "About a dozen years," Luo Feng replied, "but they are costly." "I see," Han Li said, his thoughts turning inward. "I have another request," he added. Months passed in the blink of an eye. During this time, no attacks came from the Cold Crystal race, a rare peace settling over Darkvale Island. Yet in the chief's hall, Luo Feng paced, restless. He had searched for secret techniques to seal nascent souls at Han Li's request, but the few he had found were of no interest. In desperation, he sent a body integration stage elder to Black Wind Island with spirit stones, hoping to find something suitable. 3 days beyond the elder's expected return, a streak of white light appeared in the distance. Luo Feng's heart soared as he rushed to meet the elder, who arrived with a jade box containing a dozen jade slips. "I encountered difficulties along the way, but I found what you asked for," the elder explained. Luo Feng's relief was palpable as he accepted the box, eager to deliver it to Han Li. In a secluded chamber within his courtyard, Han Li sat amidst a sea of crumpled papers, each covered in intricate array runes. He had spent countless days, poring over his knowledge and tapping into every last bit of his expertise, trying to free his nascent soul from the chains that bound it. Despite his best efforts, all his attempts were for naught. Though his theories held promise, practical application remained elusive. The mystery of the chain's origin and the nature of the laws they were imbued with evaded him. Then, a sudden flash of white light cut through the stillness, transforming into a voice transmission talisman. Han Li's heart stirred with hope as he grasped the talisman, his mind filled with anticipation. Upon hearing the message, he hastened to retrieve a jade box filled with numerous jade slips, each a potential key to his freedom. He scoured the contents one by one, but found little of use. Many contained advanced techniques, yet none were able to provide a solution. Just as disappointment began to settle in, Han Li discovered a slip bearing the name Origin Separation Heavenly Refinement. Its techniques were designed to seal magical power, but it bore striking similarities to the very chains that bound his nascent soul. A theory sparked within him. Could these origin separation law chains be the same as the ones ensnaring his soul? His excitement swelled. Though uncertain, the notion was too compelling to ignore. He gathered the materials he needed, his resolve hardening. Soon, Luo Feng, relieved of his unease, was sent off to procure the required items. Half a month passed, and the quiet courtyard was soon engulfed in a chaotic storm of lights and seals. A dozen pillars of white and yellow light rose, surrounded by silver flags that unleashed a mist of runes, encompassing the courtyard in an intricate web of power. Onlookers, including Luo Feng and the island elders, watched in awe from a distant platform. They could only guess at the magnitude of the effort unfolding within. Meanwhile, within the heart of the courtyard, Han Li, unmoved, sat in the center of the formation. The night descended upon the island, and the stars above shimmered like a vast celestial canvas. Han Li's hands moved in graceful precision, activating the formation. Light from the heavens converged upon the courtyard, and as starlight descended upon the silver pillars, they transformed into living patterns that glowed with an otherworldly light. Suddenly, beams of starlight shot into Han Li's body, infusing him with power. His veins pulsed with the combined energy of the starlight and his own magical power. As the energy surged, Han Li's spiritual sense reached out, weaving through the meridians to his nascent soul. The chains stirred, trembling at the encroaching power. Han Li's expression darkened as the mist of black light swirled in resistance. With a silent command, Han Li's silver threads of light and spiritual sense collided with the black mist, gradually tearing it apart. The chains trembled violently as his forces pressed on, and with each passing moment, the chains weakened. The battle raged between the silver light, the spiritual threads, and the chains. But finally, the black light of the chains dimmed. Han Li felt a flicker of triumph. Yet, the chains, though weakened, had not broken. They pulsed with renewed energy, threatening to recover. The struggle was far from over. Han Li's determination only deepened. He would not relent until the chains that bound him were undone. Han Li's expression darkened as the unexpected black chains continued to resist his attacks, but he swiftly regained his composure. These chains were no ordinary restraints. Their true nature had defied his expectations. With a deep breath, Han Li renewed his assault, channeling torrents of silver light into his dantian before hurling them at the chains. The air crackled with loud pops as the chains resisted, shattering the threads of silver upon contact, yet weakening under the relentless barrage. Meanwhile, his spiritual blades continued their assault, gradually dimming the black runes that covered the chains. Yet, Han Li's triumph was short-lived, as his own magic power was rapidly depleting. Despite his careful preparations, the reserves he had stashed in his dantian and organs proved insufficient. In a desperate move, Han Li roared, channeling every last ounce of his strength into 8 glowing silver palms, which seized the chains and yanked them with all his might. The chains snapped taut, and Han Li felt a sharp pain stab through his nascent soul. Despite the agony, a flicker of excitement surged within him. For the first time since being sealed, he felt a connection to his nascent soul. Activating his spirit refinement technique, Han Li's spiritual sense surged into his dantian, forming 2 massive axes of translucent light. With a flash of silver lightning, the axes descended upon the chains with devastating force, the sound of impact ringing in the air. But just as Han Li prepared for another strike, the space around him shifted violently. Another black chain materialized from thin air and shot into his body, its black runes igniting with fierce light. The runes tore through Han Li's silver palms, disintegrating them instantly, and the giant axes shattered into countless pieces of light. Han Li could only watch in frustration as his efforts were thwarted. Meanwhile, deep within the Immortal Realm, the zombie-like man in the desolate hall raised his hand. His entire being radiated black light, and the chains around him wreathed like serpents, crashing against the ground in chaotic waves. With a murmured vow to assist his disciple one final time, he closed his eyes, allowing the black light to fade and the chains to settle. Back in the courtyard on Darkvale Island, Han Li stood abruptly, his eyes flashing with determination as he sent his spiritual sense sprawling across thousands of kilometers, but found nothing. His frustration mounting, he realized that the newly appeared chain had been sent by a powerful figure, one far beyond his previous understanding. But Han Li's resolve did not waver. He attempted a final measure, enveloping his nascent soul in a layer of translucent light, hoping to sever any remaining ties with the outside world. Yet, this effort, too, proved in vain. A month passed, and Han Li found himself again in the courtyard, beneath 7 towering pillars of light. He had sought every possible way to increase his magic power, but all his attempts failed. Even his cultivation of the Big Dipper origin arts could not overcome the limitations of his sealed nascent soul. His frustration grew, yet a sudden thought struck him. What if an avatar could bypass these restrictions? But the process of creating an avatar was a daunting task, requiring immense time and resources that Han Li did not have. Then, an idea struck him. The earthly deity avatar. Could it provide the solution he sought? His eyes gleamed with renewed hope, as he immediately called upon Luo Feng to accompany him to the restricted underwater zone on Dark Veil Island. There, in the depths, Hanli approached the blue statue head, inspecting it closely before reaching out to touch its glabella. The moment his finger made contact, an unseen light rippled outward, and Hanli's nascent soul stirred in resonance. In a flash, he released a wisp of pure magic power, which collided with the blue magic of the statue. Though his magic power was quickly dispelled, the interaction sparked a realization within him. The earthly deity avatar's ability to convert faith into magic power was a unique advantage. Turning to Luo Feng, Hanli inquired about the avatar's abilities. Luo Feng explained that the earthly deity avatar had no nascent soul, but could harness the power of faith to fuel its magic. Hanli's excitement grew. This was the breakthrough he had been searching for. Hanli stood still, his gaze distant as he pondered the path before him. The realization struck him. An earthly deity avatar could indeed manifest the power of laws, utilizing the strength of faith to forge magic power. Such an avatar, if refined properly, could assist in releasing the chains binding his nascent soul. Yet, as he considered this path, he knew well the dangers it posed. The risk of his power being tainted by faith was ever present, and once tainted, he would be reduced to an earthly immortal, a state he could not escape. Still, he mulled over the possibility of walking this dangerous road, using the avatar to free his nascent soul, and then abandoning it if the risks grew too great. He spoke to Luo Feng, seeking knowledge on this uncharted path. Luo Feng, somewhat surprised by the query, explained that most earthly immortals followed the path of the ancestral gods, relying on their descendants to gather the power of faith, slowly accumulating strength through generations. However, this path required the expansion of one's clan and territories, a task Hanli was unwilling to pursue due to the conflicts it would inevitably spark. There was, however, a way to become an earthly immortal without the long process of clan building. The path of a direct earthly immortal. This method, though known, had rarely been successful, for it required two specific conditions. The earthly deity avatar must be forged from materials imbued with the power of laws, and the cultivation art must be of a high grade, capable of harnessing the impure power of worship from common people. Luo Feng, though knowledgeable, admitted his limitations, and offered to show Hanli the materials left behind by ancestral god Luo Meng. The two ventured to a secret chamber, where a dozen shelves stood laden with rare materials. Among them were ores, wood, and treasures, most useful only to cultivators at a high level. Luo Feng led Hanli to a jade shelf, where a barrier of blue light concealed several items. After dispelling the barrier, they found the items were peculiar, though Hanli was disappointed. None of them seemed to hold the power of laws. However, one item, a white jade badge, caught Hanli's attention. There was something strange about it. Though he could not immediately discern its nature, he decided to take it for further study. Hanli then requested Luo Feng to continue searching for high-grade cultivation arts and materials imbued with the power of laws. As he left the chamber, his mind was filled with contemplation. The only viable path to remove the seal on his nascent soul was to pursue this unconventional method of becoming an earthly immortal. Yet, to do so, he would need to find the right materials. The Black Wind Sea, with its treacherous regions and rare resources, might hold the key. Back in his secret chamber, Hanli meditated deeply, recalling an eye he had taken from a one-eyed giant. The light it emitted had slowed his target, leaving a lasting impression. He decided to investigate it further, channeling his spiritual energy and summoning his law-destruction eye. The three eyes combined their powers, focusing on the giant's eye. As Hanli examined it closely, he felt a surge of excitement. The faintest specks of white light within the eye seemed to pulse with the power of laws. His heart raced with anticipation, for this discovery could be the breakthrough he so desperately needed. Hanli, his heart aflame with anticipation, gathered his thoughts as he pondered his next course of action. His suspicions proved true. The beams of light shot from the one-eyed giant's gaze held an undeniable connection to the power of laws, but the precise nature of this power remained a mystery. He deduced that the gravitational force the giant commanded suggested that the eye was infused with the law of gravity, an extension of the Earth's elemental force. Yet, regardless of the specific law, Hanli knew one thing. The eye contained a power of laws, a rare treasure for those of his path. With a weary sigh, Han Li dismissed the ethereal black and blue eye, letting it dissipate before replenishing his exhausted magic power with a cloud crane herb. He stored the eye and, with a thoughtful expression, retrieved the human-faced walnut he had previously examined. Chanting an incantation, he summoned the Law Destruction Eye upon his forehead and cast another black and blue eye to envelop the walnut in ripples of energy. His spiritual sense delved deep within, and after some time, a faint smile touched his lips. A trace of Earth's law flickered within the walnut. Curious, he examined more walnuts and confirmed the same result, much to his fortune, as these had been acquired by chance in the interrealm gap. His mind, however, focused on a greater matter, the refinement of an earthly deity avatar. Should he choose the eye or the walnut? He hesitated, but ultimately determined that it was too early to decide. His priority remained finding a path to true earthly immortal cultivation. Stowing the walnuts away, Han Li examined a white jade badge next. Through his bright sight spirit eyes, he discerned a peculiar blue light surrounding it, a clear indication of a restriction. The jade badge was protected by an elaborate restriction imbued with water attribute fluctuations, set by ancestral god Luo Meng. Though undetected by others, Han Li could sense the power of this seal and set to work. He drew a series of array flags, forming a lotus-shaped array, and tossed the jade badge into its center. Incantations flowed from his hands, manifesting a web of white runes that pierced through the blue light with relentless precision. The restriction proved formidable, but Han Li's mastery of arrays and his powerful spiritual sense gave him an edge. Gradually, the blue light waned until a sudden surge of energy from the jade badge erupted, unleashing a violent vortex of white clouds and thunder. Han Li leaped back, eyes narrowed in alarm. A black hole formed at the center of the swirling storm, its size growing rapidly. Spatial fluctuations radiated from the hole as Han Li's spiritual sense failed to penetrate its depths. Deciding on action over caution, he leaped into the vortex. He emerged into a mist-laden forest, a desolate space devoid of life, save for towering trees and a large purple flower at the center of a clearing. Its strange, fragrant aroma filled the air, drawing Han Li toward it. Nearby, a decaying wooden building stood in ruin, a skeletal corpse slumped beside it. The sight sparked Han Li's curiosity, and upon closer inspection, he discovered the corpse's bones faintly glowing, a sign of its former cultivator's strength. As he moved aside the detritus, he found jade slips and a storage ring. One slip, upon being pressed to his forehead, revealed a message from Luo Meng himself. "If a descendant of the Luo clan has entered, do not fear. I am your ancestral god, Luo Meng. After my avatar's destruction, I secluded myself here for over 9,000 years, nurturing a soul birth flower to reforge an earthly deity avatar. But enemies attacked, and though I killed them, my injuries were fatal." Han Li pondered the message, the grim realization settling over him that Luo Meng had perished here over a millennium ago, his death unknown to his people. The cold crystal race and other foes, unaware of this tragedy, had only recently begun to make their moves. Thus, while misfortune had struck, Han Li found solace in the silver lining of the situation. In the quiet of the chamber, Han Li stood over the remains of Luo Meng, his thoughts deep and measured. The jade slip lay beside the corpse, a final testament to the fallen one's words. Though death had claimed him, Luo Meng had managed to impart a message, one that spoke of hope and destiny. His clan, should they ascend to immortality, might use the materials left behind to refine an earthly deity avatar and claim the mantle of ancestral god of Darkvale Island. Such was the price of immortality. Deep ties to blood and faith that even the most detached immortals could not sever. Fellow Taoist Luo Meng, I cannot take your place, but I will safeguard your people. Han Li swore, his voice calm yet resolute. Taking up the jade slip, he pressed it to his brow, absorbing the knowledge of the earthly deity avatar's refinement method. His heart stirred with excitement as he read on. An intricate process requiring rare and powerful materials, most notably the soul birth flower, a spiritual bloom with powers that could forge a soul within an avatar. Time was a key factor in its potency. Only after millennia would its flower reveal its true potential. The jade slip painted a vivid picture of its age-based transformation, each stage more potent than the last, with 10,000 years needed for the perfect manifestation of the soul. His gaze shifted to the soul birth flower nearby. It was over 8,000 years old, a treasure beyond compare. If this flower could bloom to its fullest potential, it would be worth the risk of bloodshed in the Black Wind Sea. Yet, Hanli's attention was momentarily diverted as another jade slip called to him, its contents strange and cryptic. The refinement of faith power, how to transform belief into magic power, harnessing the laws of the Tao, a method Hanli had long sought. With the last jade slip, he gained insight into Luomeng's cultivation path and the water laws of the Black Wind Sea. It was a land abundant in water-attributed origin qi, a natural advantage for cultivators of the same element. Yet the scarcity of such resources often led to fierce battles. His mind now fully occupied with these revelations, Hanli turned to the storage ring, finding the materials he sought, including the rare blue crystal used to craft the statue's head. But it was the soul birth flower that truly captured his focus. With a slow, deliberate motion, he retrieved the heaven-controlling vial and poured its green liquid onto the flower. This vial, his most cherished tool, held the key to maturing the flower, pushing it toward its final stage of power. His heart beat faster with anticipation, but after searching the surrounding area and finding no further answers, he returned to his secret chamber through the spatial passageway. Upon his return, the passage trembled, and a white jade badge appeared, floating in the air. Hanli grasped it, feeling its connection to Luomeng's final resting place. Now a domain treasure, it would prove invaluable in the trials ahead. With renewed purpose, Hanli sat cross-legged, the jade slip on refining the earthly deity avatar before him, his mind sinking deeper into its complexities. The days passed, and the moon rose higher, casting its glow upon the courtyard. Hanli set the heaven-controlling vial upon the ground, the white light of the moon enveloping it, a dazzling halo emerging. The vial's reaction was more magnificent than before, promising the production of green liquid in a single night. Excitement filled his chest, and he sealed the air around the vial with an azure incantation, then sat to continue his studies. But as dawn broke, Hanli's hopes were dashed. The stopper of the vial could not be removed. No green liquid had been produced. Perhaps, he mused, the vial required more time, 2 days perhaps, as in the spirit domain realm. He waited through the second night, casting the same seal upon the vial, but still, no liquid came. He grew anxious, his mind racing with possibilities. Could the Immortal Realm's origin qi be less abundant than that of the spirit domain realm? No, that thought was too absurd. As days turned into nights, Hanli's patience wore thin. The vial had always produced a drop of green liquid within 7 or 8 days, but now, even after 10 days, it remained empty. The absence of the liquid struck at the core of his cultivation. The vial's power was integral to his journey. Without it, his chances of obtaining the 10,000-year-old soul birth flower were slim. He weighed 2 possibilities. One, that the vial's return to the Immortal Realm had altered its properties, or 2, that it had been affected by the light imbued with the power of laws during his battle with the one-eyed giant. Regardless, Hanli did not give up hope. The vial still absorbed moonlight, and he would continue to try. If the vial had lost its power, then he would find another way. The days grew longer, and with each passing night, the vial absorbed the moonlight, but failed to produce the precious green liquid. Hanli's resolve hardened. There was no answer yet, but he would not yield.